In 1990, the body of Beverly McGowan, a bank employee, was discovered in a remote swamp in Florida, USA. What seemed like an ordinary murder case turned out to be the key to unveiling the whereabouts of a criminal that took police decades to find. None other than the infamous Chameleon Killer, Elaine Parent. She was a mysterious woman with the ability to continuously change her appearance and identity. Elaine committed numerous frauds and identity thefts across the US and Europe. The FBI issued an international arrest warrant, but Elaine always disappeared before being captured. The pursuit of her was a breathtaking game of cat and mouse that spanned over 2 decades for investigators. The answers will gradually be revealed. Like and subscribe to our channel to uncover this mystery with us. In 1989, Beverly McGowan, 34 years old, was going through a severe emotional crisis after her boyfriend passed away in a car accident. Despite trying to open up to new relationships, the fear of loss always haunted her, making her cautious and reserved. Nevertheless, she quickly made efforts to regain herself and restore her joy in life. She started looking for a new place to begin again. At the beginning of 1990, Beverly decided to buy a small apartment in Pompano Beach, Florida, and moved in with her 2 beloved cats. This was an important step in her life, marking the beginning of a new chapter. However, the financial pressure from the mortgage forced her to look for a roommate. Not only would this help her reduce financial burdens, but it would also give her a sense of security during a psychologically unstable period. In early July 1990, Beverly shared with her brother Steve about a frightening message from an unknown man. The message left on her answering machine said, "I know where you live, and I really hope we can be together." Shocked and worried, Beverly brought the answering machine to her workplace and played the message for her colleagues. However, everyone dismissed it as a harmless prank and advised her not to overthink it. About a week after receiving the eerie voicemail, Beverly placed an advertisement for a roommate on the Sun Sentinel. By mid-July, a British woman in her 40s named Alice quickly reached out. Alice claimed to be an IBM employee who had just been transferred from London to the Fort Lauderdale office. With a successful appearance, confidence, a luxury car, and a refined fashion sense, Alice easily left the impression of being an ideal and trustworthy tenant. After viewing the apartment, Alice expressed her desire to move in immediately. The two decided to meet to discuss details and went out for drinks together. With her skillful persuasion, Alice convinced Beverly to let her rent the room. She moved into the apartment the very next day. On the night of July 17, 1990, just a few days after Alice moved in, Beverly suddenly vanished without a trace. 2 days later, her family and friends received strange handwritten letters from Beverly. In them, Beverly stated she was selling her apartment and starting a new life without disclosing her location. "I'm doing this because it feels right. When I return, I'll be better and happier," Beverly wrote in the letter. These letters were sent from Miami with a postmark dated July 18th, causing her family great concern. This behavior was entirely out of character for Beverly. They believed she was in danger and had been forced to write these letters. The fear escalated when the family discovered that Beverly had also sent a telegram to the mortgage company authorizing them to seize her apartment and liquidate her assets. Steve and Jane, Beverly's siblings, immediately went to her apartment but found only an empty and eerie space. Strangely, dirty dishes were still in the sink, her nightgown was still on the bed, and there were no signs of preparation for departure. Additionally, all of Beverly's clothes remained in the closet, except for a few important documents, such as her birth certificate, passport, and address book. These documents, along with access to her bank account and a list of her relatives, had all been handed over to Alice, her new roommate. Steve and Jane immediately went to Beverly's workplace. A colleague mentioned that Beverly had called in sick the previous day and requested some time off. The colleague noted that Beverly's voice sounded tired and hoarse, but they still recognized it as hers. After leaving the office, unable to wait any longer, Steve and Jane decided to report their sister's disappearance to the police. That same day at around 7 p.m., Jesse Madd, a 31-year-old resident of Florida, was fishing at an isolated irrigation canal in St. Lucie County, about 160 kilometers from Pompano Beach. As he approached a dense bush, he discovered a black plastic bag floating on the water. Curious, Jesse pulled the bag ashore and was horrified to find inside the dismembered body of a woman. Some body parts, such as the head and both hands, had been detached. The perpetrator had even attempted to erase the little rabbit tattoo on the victim's abdomen. However, the killer overlooked a small tattoo on the ankle, a yellow rose. This crucial detail helped the police identify the victim as Beverly McGowan. On July 21, 1990, the police confirmed the victim's identity as Beverly McGowan after an autopsy. The results indicated that she had been murdered at a different location, most likely on July 18th, the same day she sent the letters to her family. This raised the theory that she had been attacked after writing those strange letters. Beverly's apartment was thoroughly examined, but no signs of struggle, fingerprints, fabric fibers, or hair were found. This suggested that the perpetrator was a professional with experience in eliminating evidence flawlessly. The meticulously planned nature of the crime led investigators to suspect a deeper motive. On the same day the body was found, police received a report that a woman had used Beverly's credit card to shop at the Aventura Mall in Miami. Store employees described the woman as having golden blonde hair, blue eyes, and a charming smile. She spoke with a perfect British accent and exuded confidence, leaving a strong impression on those around her. A bank report also revealed that $795 had been withdrawn from Beverly's account. With this evidence, Alice quickly became the prime suspect. However, tracking her down was difficult due to a lack of information. Police contacted IBM and discovered that no employees had been transferred from the UK to Florida. Furthermore, the office where Alice claimed to work in Fort Lauderdale did not exist. Investigators realized that Alice's entire identity was an elaborate facade, carefully planned before she took action. This was further confirmed when a person identifying as Sam appeared at the Thunderbird travel agency in Miami shortly after Beverly's body was found. Sam used the victim's credit card to rent an Avis car, attempting to conceal his identity. He disguised himself as a woman, wearing a long black wig and oval glasses, closely resembling Beverly's appearance. He spoke with a British accent and booked a ticket on British Airways Flight 292, intending to leave the US 2 days later. Sam's destination was Heathrow Airport in London, a bustling international aviation hub. As soon as the plane landed, a man arrived to pick up the car that had been booked under Beverly's name. With a suspiciously calm demeanor, he used the victim's credit card information to complete the process. However, after removing his disguise, he ran into trouble when Beverly's family had already blocked her credit card. Sam then paid in cash and drove away from the airport, vanishing without a trace. No one knew for sure who Sam or Alice truly was. Were they the same person, or were they accomplices? However, the discovery of unusual transactions in London using Beverly's credit card led the investigation to expand internationally. US investigators immediately contacted the British authorities to collaborate on tracking down the person who had illegally used the victim's credit card. British police focused their forces at Heathrow Airport, where the suspect was supposed to return the rental car. However, when the time came, the suspect had vanished without a trace. The rental car was found in a parking lot near the airport, meticulously cleaned. This further complicated the case, raising suspicions that the suspect had used a false identity to leave the UK. The U.S. police launched a large-scale investigation on flights returning to America. Dozens of detectives were deployed to airports, thoroughly screening passengers, but all efforts proved fruitless. The only remaining lead was British Airways Flight 292, which Sam had allegedly booked. U.S. authorities reviewed the passenger list but found no trace of Alice or Sam. Beverly's name was also missing from the list, proving that none of them had used her passport to board the flight. The suspect had used a different identity. 6 days after Beverly's body was discovered, on July 25, 1990, her red Volkswagen Fox was found at a rest area near Miami International Airport. The car had been there for 5 days, but fingerprint analysis yielded no results. However, investigators found 4 black synthetic hairs on the driver's headrest. They began checking every passenger on Flight 292, but due to jurisdictional issues, the process was slow. Finally, after 6 years of investigation in 1996, Detective Rena Crowning-Sheld uncovered a shocking detail. A British passenger named Sylvia Ann Hawkinson, who had been assigned seat 18C, had died before the flight took off. How could a deceased person have boarded a plane? This question marked a major turning point in the case, as investigators began suspecting a sinister conspiracy behind Beverly's murder. Looking back into the past, in 1991, a British woman was arrested in North Miami for a traffic violation. She identified herself as Charlotte Ray Cohen and presented valid identification. However, upon closer inspection, police found 2 other identity cards in her bag, one under the name Sylvia Ann Hawkinson and another under the name Alan Parrott. At the time of her arrest, the woman was accompanied by 2 small dogs, appearing calm yet cautious. She was detained in county jail, but within hours an unidentified individual paid her bail. The next morning, she was released and received a court summons. However, in a bizarre twist at the court hearing, another woman also named Charlotte Ray Cohen appeared. The police immediately recognized that the woman arrested the previous day was an imposter, while the one appearing in court was the real Charlotte. This revelation caused a major shock. When questioned, the real Charlotte recounted a strange encounter she had with a mysterious woman. Years ago at a bar in Orlando, Florida, Charlotte met a woman with an aristocratic appearance, sharp blue eyes, and a perfect British accent. The woman introduced herself as Anne and convinced Charlotte to provide personal information for a fortune-telling session. Anne's words were mesmerizing, and Charlotte, unsuspecting, agreed. After obtaining Charlotte's personal details, Anne vanished without a trace. But weeks later, she suddenly reappeared in a panic, begging Charlotte for help by borrowing her birth certificate to create a new identity. She cried, claiming that she was being pursued and that if she didn't get new documents, she would be in grave danger. At first, Charlotte refused. But faced with Anne's tears and sheer terror, she relented. Anne promised to return the documents soon. True to her word, 3 weeks later, Charlotte received her birth certificate in the mail. However, from that moment on, she never saw or heard from Anne again. It wasn't until Charlotte received a court summons for a crime she had never committed that she realized she had been deceived. The woman arrested that day was neither Anne, Sylvia, nor Alice. The police quickly identified the imposter's true identity, Elaine Antoinette Parent, a master con artist, later infamously known as the Chameleon Killer. Elaine Parent was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. In her 30s, she moved to Florida and began a long series of criminal activities. Her criminal record started in 1985, when a failed theft attempt led to her being pursued by the police. To evade capture, Elaine fled to London, where she learned to speak fluent, native-level English and perfected her identity fraud skills. While living in London, Elaine befriended a homeless woman named Sylvia Ann Hawkinson. However, this friendship was merely a cover for a sinister plan. Seeing that Sylvia lived alone and had no close family, Elaine murdered her. Afterward, Elaine stole Sylvia's identity. She used Sylvia's personal details to forge a fake passport, re-entered the United States, and continued committing fraud under her new identity. The police had no leads on Sylvia's murder, as no one had ever reported her missing. The discovery of Elaine Parent's true identity opened a new chapter in the investigation. She was not just a sophisticated con artist, but also a highly dangerous serial killer who may have killed multiple victims without ever being caught. But the biggest question remained: where was Elaine? In the years that followed, Elaine Parent continued her escape and crime spree, using over 20 different identities. She stole identities from both men and women across both sides of the Atlantic. Her victims were either scammed, murdered, or suffered both fates at once. In fact, Charlotte Ray Cowan was the only known survivor after encountering Elaine. All other victims either disappeared or were brutally murdered. Elaine would typically befriend her targets, gain their trust, then kill them before stealing their documents and assuming their identities. The bodies of her victims were often mutilated to conceal their identities and delay their discovery. While police struggled to determine the true identity of each victim, she had already moved on to a new target and continued her cycle of crimes. Elaine was described as a master con artist, a skilled actress with an unpredictable ability to transform herself. She possessed an irresistible charm, was highly adept at gaining trust, and would strike when her victims least expected it. She could switch personas effortlessly, from a wealthy, sophisticated lady to a vulnerable woman in need, making it easy for people to fall into her trap. With razor-sharp intelligence and extraordinary impersonation skills, Elaine even mocked law enforcement. Her nickname, the Chameleon, was not assigned by the police. It was her own creation. A hand-drawn postcard was sent to the police department with a message: "Best wishes from your chameleon," a blatant challenge to investigators. By constantly changing her appearance, assuming multiple identities, and frequently moving between the US and the UK, Elaine successfully evaded capture for nearly 2 decades. But in the end, she made one fatal mistake, leading to her downfall. After being arrested in 1991 under the false identity of Charlotte Ray Cowan, Elaine was asked to provide additional documents. Investigators, who had been closely tracking Beverly McGowan's murder case, discovered that Elaine possessed Sylvia Hawkinson's identification card, a victim who had been dead for years. Detecting suspicious elements, the police began to re-examine all the evidence related to Beverly's murder. They paid particular attention to a notebook found in Beverly's apartment, which contained farewell letters believed to have been written by her before she disappeared. At first glance, the letters were written entirely in Beverly's handwriting. But when forensic experts used an electrostatic detection apparatus, ESDA, they uncovered hidden writing impressions beneath the visible text. These hidden markings were invisible to the naked eye, but they revealed someone had manipulated the letter's content. When the concealed writing was restored, it contained an angry, vengeful message. "You will pay for this. I guarantee it. After what you've done, I have no regrets about destroying what I created." The handwriting perfectly matched Elaine Parent's own script, proving that she had been present at Beverly's apartment at the time the letters were written. This became the most crucial piece of evidence linking Elaine to the crime. But the mystery did not end there. The ESDA device also revealed the intended recipient's address for this hostile letter. Police followed the address and found a key witness, a person referred to as Witness X. Witness X was a businesswoman in London who had received this letter from Elaine years earlier. When questioned, she confirmed that Elaine was her former lover with a deeply troubled past. In 1990, shortly after breaking up with Witness X, Elaine stole 2 of her small dogs and later demanded ransom money for their return. This detail matched exactly with the 2 small dogs found in Elaine's car when she was arrested under the fake identity of Charlotte Ray Cowan in 1991. By this point, the puzzle pieces were finally falling into place. Elaine was Anne, the con artist who had deceived Charlotte Ray Cohen. She was also Sylvia Ann Hawkinson, the woman who had used a stolen identity to board Flight 292. And most importantly, she was Alice, the roommate who had murdered Beverly McGowan. The only question left was, where was Elaine now? With her expert disguise skills and 17 years of experience evading capture, she had frustrated law enforcement on both sides of the Atlantic for years. Beverly McGowan's case was first featured on the TV show Unsolved Mysteries in 1991, shocking the American public. Famous host Robert Stack confirmed that Elaine Parent was one of the most wanted women in the world at that time. The show America's Most Wanted also aired an alert to help locate the Chameleon Killer, leading many Americans to pay closer attention to anyone resembling Elaine. On April 6, 2002, after over a decade in hiding, a viewer of the fugitive program provided a critical tip leading police to Elaine Parent's hideout, a small apartment in Panama City, Florida, where she was living under yet another false identity. When police knocked on the door, Elaine answered with a calm demeanor. She was wearing pajamas and holding a military ID card under the name Dolan Thompson. At first glance, the ID seemed valid, but police insisted she come to the station for questioning. Elaine asked for permission to change clothes before leaving. While officers waited outside, one officer double-checked her ID and found it was fake. Sensing something was off, another officer knocked on Elaine's bedroom door. From inside, Elaine calmly responded, "I'm still changing. Give me a moment." No one knew that these would be her final words. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. When police stormed into the room, they found Elaine had taken her own life using a .357 Magnum revolver. The woman who had evaded capture for nearly 2 decades, the Chameleon Killer, had chosen to end her own life rather than face justice. At the scene, police found a collection of wigs, disguises, fake identification documents, and even stage makeup guides, all the tools Elaine had used to change her appearance over the years. Elaine Parent was quietly buried at the age of 60, taking all her darkest secrets to the grave. But the case was not truly over. The most haunting question remained: how many people had Elaine really killed? Police confirmed she had taken the lives of at least 8 victims and had stolen countless identities during her years in hiding. However, many believed that Elaine was connected to even more unsolved murders that were never discovered. During the investigation, police were never able to find her birth certificate or any official documents proving Elaine's true identity. This raised a chilling theory. Could Elaine herself have been living under a stolen identity all along? Could she have been a missing person who was never reported, or an unidentified victim from another crime? While Elaine's true origins remained a mystery, the families of her victims, including Beverly McGowan's family, finally found some relief, knowing that the killer was no longer a threat. But what about the second suspect? The mysterious man named Sam, who had used Beverly's credit card to book a flight and rent a car, was never found. The case was only partially solved, as Sam's identity and whereabouts remained unknown. But one chilling possibility couldn't be ruled out. Did Sam even exist? Or was he simply one of Elaine's many disguises? The case ends here. But Elaine Parent's legacy remains one of the most haunting mysteries in true crime history. What do you think about Elaine Parent? How many more victims remain undiscovered? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. This video is now concluded. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so we can continue bringing you more strange, emotional, and gripping cases. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.